How does the understanding of roles in a marriage affect its success or failure? This question may seem simple, but the answer has the power to transform marriages and families, and even society as a whole. The key to a successful marriage lies not just in love, but in understanding and fulfilling the specific responsibilities that come with the role of a husband or a wife. Just like in a game of chess, every piece has a specific role and functions best when it moves according to its designated rules. Similarly, in the game of marriage, the husband and wife have distinct roles that, when understood and applied correctly, can lead to a harmonious and fulfilling relationship. However, one of the primary reasons for the breakup of so many marriages today is the failure of men and women to understand and apply these roles. And the bulk of that responsibility rests squarely on the shoulders of the man. Yes, you heard it right. The role of a husband in a marriage is pivotal, and when a man is out of the will of God, he can become a menace to himself and everyone else. To illustrate this, let's take a trip back in time to the Old Testament and recall the story of Jonah, the prophet who almost brought down a ship because of his disobedience. Many husbands today are doing the same to their marriages. Their marriages are in trouble because they are unwilling to obey God's commandments to them. So, what are these commandments? What does a husband's role entail? It's more than just being the breadwinner or the head of the family. It's about love, respect, and self-sacrifice. It's about leading by example and serving with humility. Are you ready to learn more about the profound role a husband has in a marriage? If yes, let's delve deeper into the specific commands to a husband as outlined in Ephesians 5:22-33. Stay with us as we continue to explore this important topic in our next scene. Ephesians 5:25 delivers a clear message to husbands: love your wives. But what does this love entail? It's more than a feeling. It's a responsibility, a commitment, a duty that goes deeper than surface-level affection. The love a husband is called to have for his wife is the kind of love that initiates. It's a love that steps forward, that leads, that sets the tone. It's the kind of love that says, I'm here for you no matter what. It is the kind of love that mirrors Christ's love for the church. Christ's love for the church is our blueprint. It's selfless, sacrificial, and unending. As Christ gave himself for the church, so should a husband be willing to give everything for his wife. This isn't just a physical sacrifice, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's a willingness to put her needs above his own, to protect, provide for, and cherish her. But here's the catch. The goal of a husband's love isn't to get a certain reaction from his wife. It's not about manipulating feelings or enforcing submission. It's about obedience to God's command. It's about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, regardless of the outcome. When a husband loves his wife in this way, he's not just fulfilling a marital duty, he's demonstrating his obedience to God. He's showing his willingness to follow Christ's example, and in doing so, he's setting a powerful example for his wife, his children, and everyone who witnesses his marriage. This kind of love is not easy. It requires strength, courage, and a lot of grace. But it's the kind of love that can transform a marriage, bring healing to brokenness, and create a bond that nothing can break. So, husbands, love your wives. Love them with a selfless, sacrificial love. Love them as Christ loved the church. And remember, it's not about the reaction you get, it's about the obedience you show. As we see, the husband's love for his wife is not just about feelings, it's about a selfless commitment. What does it mean to love as Jesus loves? This is a question that can genuinely transform the dynamics of a marriage. When we delve into the scriptures, we find that Christ demonstrated his love primarily through selfless actions and sacrifice. The book of Romans chapter 5 verse 8 tells us, "But God demonstrates his own love toward us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." And in the Gospel of John chapter 15 verse 13 we learn that greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. These verses provide us with a blueprint of how to love. They show us that love isn't just about feelings or emotions, it's about actions. It's about being willing to put the needs of others before our own, even when it's inconvenient or painful. It's about being willing to make sacrifices for the sake of those we love. Now you might be thinking, but I'm not Jesus. How can I possibly love like he does? And you're right. None of us can love perfectly as Jesus does, but we can strive to emulate his love in our relationships, especially in our marriages. When a husband loves his wife in this way, it can have a profound effect on her. As the church's love for Jesus is a response to his love, so a wife's love and submission are responses to her husband's love. When a wife sees that her husband loves her selflessly and sacrificially, she's more likely to respond with love and submission. But let's be clear. Our goal as husbands should not be to manipulate our wives into submission. Instead, our goal should be to fulfill God's command to us to love our wives as Christ loved the church. We must leave our wife's reaction up to God. The husband's love, therefore, should mirror Christ's love, selfless and sacrificial. This is a high calling indeed, but it is the calling that God has given to every husband, and by God's grace, it is a calling that we can fulfill. To love as Christ loved is to be willing to lay down your life. But what does this mean in the context of a marriage? Well, in essence, it means prioritizing your spouse's needs above your own. It's about embodying the spirit of Philippians 2:3-9, which urges us to do nothing out of selfish ambition. This is a call for husbands to embody the same selfless love that Jesus exemplified. Remember, Jesus said, "The Son of Man did not come to be served but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many," as stated in Matthew 20:28. This is the kind of love that husbands are called to imitate. A love that is selfless, a love that is patient, a love that is willing to lay down its life for the sake of another. But this kind of love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the small, everyday actions that show your spouse that they are cherished and valued. It's about being humble and unselfish, always putting their needs before your own. Now, this might sound like a tall order, but remember Philippians 2:7, which tells us that Jesus made himself of no reputation. The literal translation is, he emptied himself. This is a complete attitude of unselfishness that we, as husbands, are called to emulate. You see, true authority comes from humility, as shown in Philippians 2:8. Authority does not mean to manipulate and lord over someone. That's not authority, that's insecurity. A man who is constantly lecturing his wife on his authority probably has very little. A husband must be firm and decisive, but also humble and unselfish. This is what it means to have true authority, the kind that is given by God. The head of every man is Christ, the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is God, as stated in 1 Corinthians 11:3. So as husbands, the call is to love selflessly, humbly, and with true authority, just as Christ loved the church. This is the foundation of a godly marriage and the key to lifelong love and happiness. Understanding and living out the biblical command to husbands is critical for a thriving marriage. As we draw this discussion to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned today. We've acknowledged that every marriage faces its unique set of challenges and difficulties. However, the key to navigating these storms lies in understanding and fulfilling our God-given roles within the union. For husbands, this role is primarily encapsulated in 3 profound words: love your wives. A command that's straightforward, yet deeply layered. We've seen how this love is not ordinary, but rather, it's a love that mirrors the sacrificial love Jesus demonstrated for the church. A love that was willing to lay down life itself for the sake of the beloved. This form of love, when exhibited by a husband, holds the power to transform a marriage, causing a wife to respond in love and submission. We've also explored the concept of laying down one's life in love. This means prioritizing the needs of your spouse above your own, steering clear of selfish ambitions, and demonstrating a spirit of humility. It's about being firm and decisive, yet humble and unselfish, just as Jesus was. The role of a husband in a marriage is indeed a weighty one, filled with responsibility and sacrifice. But let's remember, it's also a role filled with immense potential and reward. When a husband steps up to fulfill this role, he sets his marriage on a path of flourishing and growth. In conclusion, the husband's role in a marriage is not just about being the head, but about leading with love, just as Christ loved the church. It's about serving, sacrificing, and loving unconditionally. Remember, a godly husband holds the key to a flourishing marriage. Now let's step up and be the men that God has called us to be. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Ella TV for more insightful discussions. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.